Hi, welcome to At Work With. I'm your host, Anna Merchant. In this podcast, we're diving deep into the professional lives of industry trailblazers. I'll be chatting with these leaders about their career highs, lows, and everything in between, uncovering the stories that shape their paths to success. Today, we are joined by an extraordinary leader and changemaker in the UK sector, Charlotte Hill, OBE. Charlotte is the CEO of the Felix Project, a groundbreaking organisation dedicated to tackling food waste and fighting hunger in London. Under her leadership, the Felix Project has scaled its operations significantly, delivering millions of meals to those in need. Charlotte's impact extends far beyond her current role. Previously, she served as the CEO of Step Up to Serve, where she spearheaded the I Will campaign, inspiring millions of young people to engage in social action. Before that, she led UK Youth, empowering young people through education and development programs. Charlotte's dedication to making a difference earned her an OBE in 2019 for her services to young people, and her career reflects a deep passion for advocacy, collaboration, and driving meaningful change. Beyond her professional achievements, Charlotte is a mother and an advocate for balancing a high-impact career with family life. Her journey as a leader, changemaker, and working parent offers valuable lessons for us all. Today, we'll dive into Charlotte's inspiring career journey, her vision for creating a fairer society, and her advice for anyone striving to make a difference in the world. Charlotte, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. So happy, firstly, for doing this in person.
It's great.
It is my first in-person one as well. Like I kind of started this during COVID when I had a lot more time on my hands, and it was always virtual. So I never even thought about the fact that I could do this in person. So I think when you messaged me saying I can be there, I was like, oh my God, okay.
Oh my God, how does that work?
How does that work? Like, I'm not in an interview. But I think let's start with just about yourself. Can you tell me a bit about yourself? So where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah. My name's Charlotte Hill. I have the deep privilege of being the Chief Executive of the Felix Project.
Yeah.
So we rescue surplus food, everything inside the M25. So we're a proud London organisation. Yeah. We rescue surplus food from every part of the food chain, whether that's up at the farm gate, in manufacturing, with retail, down at restaurants.
Yeah.
We sort it in our 4 warehouses, or we cook it in Felix's kitchen.
Nice.
And then we distribute it to about 1,200 charities or food banks or primary schools right across London.
Yeah. And a bit more about you. So you said you're from Peckham.
Yeah, I live in Peckham.
So are you born and bred Londoner? Or?
So my family are South East Londoners, born and bred.
Okay.
My dad and my nan and granddad were all from Deptford, which is actually where one of our depots is.
Well, full circle moment.
Yeah, literally. And my mum and dad met in Kent at university. So I spent my life basically between either Kent or South East London. So I've not gone very far.
Yeah.
I then went to Birmingham to university for a few years, but then I've moved back to South East London and never gone anywhere else. I've moved between little bits of South East London, but I love it. I love living in Peckham.
Yeah.
And I love everything about my local community and just the richness of where we live. It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing. And I always ask my guests this, one peculiar fact about you?
A peculiar fact about me?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's peculiar, but I spend an awful lot of my life in the world of football. So I, for the last 9 years, I've just finished actually 3-3-year terms of being on the board of EFL Trust. So all the football clubs below the Premier League are part of the English Football League. And so I've been on as part of the kind of governance of that for the last 9 years.
I wouldn't have expected that.
And I love football. And one of my proudest moments was that last year we have a very competitive fantasy football league at Felix.
Yeah.
And we've never had a female winner before. And last year I won it.
Oh, wow.
And I can't tell you in our warehouses how much kudos that gave me with all of my different colleagues in the different warehouses across Felix. So that was, maybe not that unusual a fact, but a fact I'm very proud of.
Oh, amazing. I don't know if this is a contentious question, but who do you support?
I'm a Spurs fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it probably is. It is. Basically, people usually groan at that point and go, "Oh, poor you, I'm so sorry." I'm a die-hard Spurs fan. Although Millwall's the closest club to where I live, and so I've actually never taken my kids to Spurs, but I've taken my kids to Millwall. Partly because it's a lot cheaper. But also they're not quite old enough to really appreciate. And enjoy 90 minutes of football yet. So
okay, fine. I actually used to work at Wembley Stadium as a first aider, and I was at a Millwall game once. is quite different to a lot of the rest of the game.
Yeah, my kids learned some new language.
Yeah, the Millwall fans are very different to where I've worked before. But anyway, so I think moving on then, if we continue down the career path. So how did you get into this? I mean, obviously I was reading a lot about you this week and stuff. Like, you've done so much from where you started to where you ended up. But how did you get into the career? Like, how did you get to where you are now with the Felix Project?
Okay, I'll give you a very short plotted history.
Yeah.
I did politics and philosophy at Birmingham University, at which I absolutely loved. But what I realised very, very quickly is I'm not a person who learns by academic study. Yeah. I am a person who learns by doing.
Yeah.
And so I went, in my first term, I went and volunteered initially for the local MP, just because I was like, I need to do some like practical application of this learning, otherwise it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
And anyway, the long and the short of it was I ended up getting a job for him for the whole 3 years I was at university. Yeah. And so that meant, because I'd had 3 years of working for him, doing lots of different things, I went into a like pretty good job in Whitehall, straight out of university. And I had an amazing time working in Whitehall under the previous Labour government, so the Blair and Brown administrations. Anyway, what I rapidly realised is I'm a person who likes getting stuff done. Yeah. And much as everyone thinks being in the heart of government is a good place to get stuff done, it actually isn't. It's quite a slow, frustrating place in many, many ways. Yeah. And what I realised from lots of things working with the voluntary sector who would come and lobby me and the ministers I work for was actually get stuff done in the voluntary sector. So anyway, I ended up, after a merry dance of a few different things, working in the voluntary sector, and then accidentally became chief executive of a quite big organisation, age 29. Yeah. Definitely wasn't expecting to be a chief executive at 29. But I've now done 3 different chief exec jobs of different size and scope charities, and have realised it is the place I am happy. Yeah. What I really love is massive cross-sector collaboration. Where you really see impact in the world is where you bring the public sector, the private sector and the voluntary sector together. And the voluntary sector is an amazing convener of and driver of impact and purpose and social good, and I love it. Yeah.
And was there during this time, and obviously like you've done so much, and I think we could talk about it for hours, but was there a pivotal moment in your career where you said, you know, I'm going to do this now, and I'm not going to go back to government, to corporate, to anything else. Like, I want to do this where I can make social impact.
Do you know what? I would never say never, interestingly, as in I've still not said that I would never go back to government or corporate. Like, life is long, right? My children are only 5 and 7, so I'm going to have to work for a very, very long time. Like, I am only in my mid-40s now, so like realistically I've got at least another 30 years of work ahead of me to pay for them. So never say never.
Never say never.
And I can't imagine in the near future me not wanting to be chief exec of a voluntary sector organisation. Yeah. But who knows? Who knows what the future holds?
I guess so. So I guess in terms of now you've had experiences on both sides, is there any advice you'd give to someone who wants to transition into the charity sector or into the volunteering sector from, say, a company like Amazon or just any corporate? Yeah. Because it's being in the impact team now, it's such a different world being on the other side of the table. And sometimes I forget the privilege that we have being on this side.
Yeah.
So it's really daunting for even someone like me. If I were to think about working in a charity space, I'd be like, I don't know if I could do that. And how would that even work? You know, when you get used to a certain... You know.
I totally get it. I think there's a couple of things. One, I think there is so much power having sat on both sides. Like we've just been doing this big piece of work with DEFRA around trying to think about how we can access more surplus food from the farm gate. Yeah. And because I've worked in government and because I've sat on that side of the table, the way I will interact with officials and special advisors and ministers or things is really different because I've experienced it. Yeah. And I always think it is a brilliant thing for anyone in any career to work in a different sector. Like no matter what that different sector is. And the joy of the voluntary sector is you can get experience in it right now by becoming a trustee of a charity. Yeah. So the first thing I think I would say to anyone in the private sector who is thinking about like wanting to potentially have a job in the voluntary sector is go and become a trustee. It's a great way to really experience and understand charity world and to build your networks and just really test out if you like it. Yeah. I always sit on boards alongside doing my day job. Partly because, again, that empathy thing is really powerful. When I'm presenting to my board, my experience of sitting on the other side of the table and being a board member myself means I'm a better chief executive. And so I would always say to anyone, like, if you've got something you care about, and this for me is the key in the voluntary sector, you've got to be passionate about the thing you're going to dedicate your life to. Like, I have to feel like I'm going to jump out of bed in the morning to deliver whatever I'm going to deliver, because it's hard, right? You don't have the resources you're going to have in the private sector. You don't have all sorts of different things you're necessarily going to have. But what you do have is the most passionate, committed, dedicated human beings in the world who will walk over hot coals to make sure your organisation achieves what it's supposed to achieve. And that is worth more than any of those other things put together, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. It's like the purpose-driven world that we're going towards. So I guess from your experience leading the Felix project now, what do you think is one of the most overlooked aspects that we're seeing at the moment when it comes to food poverty? I mean, it's shocking, one of the richest cities, right, that we're seeing this. A couple of weeks ago I interviewed Sophie Livingston.
I love Sophie.
And even some of the stuff and the stats that she was coming out with, I couldn't believe it. And I think only being in this role, like, you hear so much more of like the real stuff going on behind the scenes. What should people be more aware of when it comes to food poverty as the cost of living crisis is now increasing?
Yeah, it is really shocking, and it's shocking for me, and I live it every day. And first of all, I always start with the fact that I'm a really proud Londoner. I think this is the greatest capital city in the world. It's an incredible place. But we all need to be aware that for the bottom kind of between 25 and 30% in terms of income earners in this city, life is a huge struggle. Even if they are working 3 jobs and they are doing everything they can, once they have put fuel in their car or paid their, tube fare to get to work, once they've paid their energy bills, which have gone up so much in the last few years, once they've paid their rent or their mortgage, all of those like completely fixed, committed costs, for that bottom 25 to 30%, they often cannot afford to feed themselves and their families. Like, the only elastic part of their outgoings, once they've paid all those things that just have to be paid, or they lose their home or they lose their job, they can't afford to feed themselves and their families. And the thing that I find really shocking, we did some polling with YouGov, and for low-paid Londoners, so this is in-work Londoners, about 40% of them have less than £4 a day to spend on food. That's what we would probably spend buying a coffee on the way to work, and that's what they've got for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that is like an absolute stark reality, that for the other 70% of society, what's happening at the moment is what's called the kind of K curve, which is effectively, if you're in the bottom 30%, it's going like that. If you're in the top 70%, it's going like that, like a K. God. So basically, for those who have, it's getting better. We're getting more. But the difference is getting worse. For those in the bottom 30%, it's getting harder, it's getting worse. So it's like a K, the graph. If you're in the top half, the world is getting better for you. If you're in that bottom 30%, it is getting harder and harder and harder. And we as a society have to, first of all, know that. Like, I'm always amazed. One of the things I love most at the Felix project is in our East London depot, which is where I'm hopping to after this, we have Felix's kitchen there as well as the depot. And so people will come there and help us cook or help us in the depot. And a lot of the people who volunteer there have walked over from Canary Wharf and are like millionaires from some of the richest, companies that we have. People who have plenty. And we feed everybody at lunchtime, because we cook lunch and everybody sits down, and they might have been volunteering alongside someone who's on universal credit, who's there because they're getting a free meal, and who's there because they're one of the recipients of a Felix meal. And they'll sit down at lunch together, and it's a great leveler, it's a great melting pot of London coming together, because it doesn't matter who you are, right? The Felix project is a place for everybody. But for lots of those colleagues who come and volunteer brilliantly from Canary Wharf, it's the first touch point in their life where they really think about the fact that for people who live in their neighbourhoods, they are struggling to eat. And it's such an important thing just to even get people to think about that and think about what that means and have that empathy that we were talking about.
Absolutely.
Is so important.
It's one of those, I think, cause I've got an engineering background, so very different career trajectory, but since I came in the impact team, and when I'd see these real life stories, you hear it on the news, but it doesn't really resonate with you. And it must be so impactful having like bankers and kind of multimillionaires listening to those real life impact stories.
Yeah. I always say to people, if they can, like, great if you can become a volunteer driver at Felix. Like, we always need drivers. But if not, become a co-driver and go out in our vans and talk to the community organisations. It's an amazing volunteer shift. Like, we always need people in the depots, in the kitchen and on the green scheme and all of that. But we need people out in our vans to help with the deliveries. And for me, it's such a powerful volunteering opportunity, because you'll go out and you see where the food is going and you talk to the people who are receiving the food, and you understand what it means. And the biggest learning always for everybody is, there but for the grace of God go I. Like, nobody is in that situation for a reason that's usually their own fault. It is often because a family member is incredibly ill and has, they've got to step into caring, or they lost their job and they just haven't been able to find another one, or some sort of crisis has happened in their life, and then it's had a domino effect that means that this happened and then they lost this, and then they've or mental health challenges or addiction or whatever it is. It's so often, and this is the thing I think that's so powerful for people to realise, it could happen to any of us. It could happen to any of us.
Things can change so fast.
And absolutely. The level of resilience that those people in the bottom 30% have, I think is absolutely incredible. Like, I'm a mum of 2 small kids. The idea of not knowing that how I'm going to put food on the table for them every day is beyond the level of stress that any one of us can imagine. Like, it is an incredible level of resilience and determination to keep optimistic and to keep going and to keep making it work and to keep the juggle going is just amazing.
Yeah, I remember when I obviously we worked with this village in some capacity as well, and I went to the opening of their warehouse. And just listening to some of the stories, I think I came back and I was like, God, I'm so privileged. Like, I don't think twice before buying my son formula when he was a baby. I don't think twice where my nappies will come from. Like, if one gets dirty, I'll just use them. Like, it was just some of the stories that were coming out. I think I was in tears when Sophie was speaking, and I was like, I think you just can't imagine it. You can't imagine it, but you see those people living that reality every single day.
I cry most days. Like, I'm a big crier. Most days, to be honest, I cry because I'm really proud. Like, I'm really proud of the fact that I work with some amazing people who are having amazing impact. But also, I make sure I go out in the vans, or I talk to the community partners, or when they're in the warehouses, because actually that's what keeps me like motivated and topped up. When you have hard days, you have to remember your hard days are nowhere near as hard as a parent who's deciding whether they can afford formula that day to feed their baby. I mean, it's a completely different level. And I think the reason why people love coming and volunteering at Felix so much, like we had 15,000 volunteers each year, is because it is such an empowering place to come. I think the world can sometimes feel like, goodness, it's really bleak. There's doom and gloom out there, right? There's some really big global macro challenges happening in the world that it's very hard for us to feel we can have any control over. But what you do have control over is coming and giving your time to both environmentally help us stop food going to waste and getting that food to people who really need it. And coming and being part of an organisation that is part of a solution is really empowering for people. Like, you leave having had a bit of agency in a world where you can sometimes feel like it's very hard to have agency.
Absolutely. So I think then looking ahead, I think you alluded to this before with corporates coming together with charity, the kind of the third sector space that we almost say. Like, what change do you think could have the most significant impact on reducing food waste and hunger in the UK?
Oh my goodness!
Or even if we just start with London.
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I'd want to separate the two out. Because I always want to be really clear: surplus food is not the answer to poverty. People are poor because they haven't got enough money in their pockets, and surplus food isn't the answer to that. So our absolute mission as an organisation is to rescue as much surplus food as we can and get it to amazing community organisations who aren't just using that food to feed people. Because they're not paying for their food that we give to them, they're able to spend their budgets on an additional employability worker or homeless support worker or assistance advice worker for their refuge or whatever it is. And those are the things that are going to support these people out of poverty.
It's like your in-kind service to
exactly.
Them,
I always say we're like a funder, but a funder with food.
I feel like I should have known that.
No, That's okay. But effectively, those 1,200 community organisations, they all use food for social good. Amazing. And because they're no longer having to pay for their food, because we give it to them for free, which is the best use of surplus food, right? You're basically empowering a community organisation to do more good. They are then able to spend that money on genuine support for those people to help them out of whatever the challenge is, you know, whether it's a domestic violence refuge or a homeless shelter, or it's around poverty or, you know, unemployment or whatever. So I always say, look, we're about maximising the social impact of surplus food. And so for me, there's some really big things that we are trying to work with government on around saying there is still so much more surplus food we could be rescuing in our system that we could be doing social good with, right?
Yeah.
And so a big thing at the moment is at the farm gate, the government currently spends £750 million a year subsidising farmers to send food into anaerobic digestion, which could be animal feed or fertiliser, and there is nothing wrong with that, but that's often food that could be going to humans. And we know that there are people really struggling to make ends meet, and there are community organisations who could be using that food. So we're trying to do a lot of work with DEFRA at the moment around how we can just change the kind of ways that farmers are subsidised around where that food goes. And so there's some of these kind of unlocking levers that we're trying to work with government around, where it would enable a real step change in the amount of fresh fruit and vegetables, like really good quality, amazing food that we could get to communities who really need it. So those are some of the things. We're doing some other work with them around things like mandatory food waste reporting, like lots of other things. Lots of it doesn't necessarily need to cost the government money, but it's all stuff that can push the behaviours of all parts of the food chain to say, if the food that is surplus for whatever reason could be used by humans, it should be coming into our system so we can make sure it gets to the place where it can do the most good. So again, very much a kind of cross-sector collaboration, and I always come back to this. Most of these big knotty problems we have in the world can be solved if the government and the private sector and the voluntary sector come together and work together. It's no one bit of society's problem. Like if we all come together, it's very doable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the multi-bank is such a good example.
Perfect example
of how I think like just where it started and kind of what it's becoming.
Yeah,
incredible to see.
And multi-bank, I loved it. Our launch of Felix's multi-bank with you guys.
Yeah.
We had like Amazon and all of the kind of partners who are like donating their surplus products. We are really lucky that we have the Mayor of London who is helping support the multi-bank. So we had the kind of public sector with the mayor there. We had lots of the different voluntary sector partners like Trussell Trust and Little Village and others who we're working with where the product's going to go. Yeah. And for me, it was like a room that was the epitome of where the public sector, private sector and voluntary sector can come together. Proper intersection where there is massive benefit for everybody. Like no one in that partnership, and I always say this about our partnership with Amazon, and we work with you in so many different ways, whether it's through multi-bank or Amazon Fresh or Amazon Logistics or all of the different ways. It's a genuine partnership because there is massive benefit to you guys and there's massive benefit to the communities we serve. And that's when you hit the sweet spot, right, of proper collaboration.
Absolutely. So inspiring. But yeah, just in the interest of time. So I think then going back into your career journey, is there, and I'm sure there's dozens of moments like this, but is there any one moment that you would say you're really proud of in your career journey or something that you'd really like to highlight?
Oh, do you know what? There are so many. And I have them every day. But do you know what? I am going to think back to one that's nothing to do with the Felix project, actually. Yeah. So I set up with some amazing women called Dame Julia Cleverton and Amanda Jordan, and this campaign called the I Will campaign, which was all about trying to get young people to play a more active part in society. And everybody was like, oh, you know, really young people, what can they really do that's meaningful? And we did it from 10 to 20-year-olds. Yeah. And I met some of the most amazing 10-year-olds, and actually kids much younger than that, making the world better. Like, it was always so inspiring to see the energy and ideas and innovation and just like positivity that young people brought to every single challenge, but also the absolute agency and skills they learn and empowerment they had from making a difference. Anyway, I always just remember we were very lucky to work with the then Prince of Wales, who is now the King, as part of the campaign. He was a great leader and patron of the work. And we held this event at Buckingham Palace with him where we had all of the leaders of society. So we had the king chairing this meeting. We had the Archbishop of Canterbury and the chief rabbi and the president of the CBI and literally leaders. We had the boss of Ofsted and it was amazing. It was this amazing room of people.
Yeah.
And we made a rule which was that for the first hour, nobody over the age of 18 was allowed to speak.
Oh wow.
And so everybody who presented and contributed for the first hour was a child, a young person.
Yeah.
And all of those other people who are the leaders, I say in inverted commas, listened.
Wow.
And I felt so proud of that meeting. One, I felt so proud of the young people who absolutely were just phenomenal. But also, every single one of those, the people who run our country left it saying that they learnt more in that first hour where they didn't speak, they just listened, than they had in almost any other event they'd been in, because they were just listening to the young leaders in our society. So I always think of that as a really proud moment.
Oh, amazing. And then last question now, actually, I think good for time. So if you could start all over again, is there anything that you would do differently?
Oh my goodness.
In life, anything. I get a lot of mixed responses to this.
Okay.
So I'm really interested to hear your one.
This is a kind of personal one, but it is what came to my mind when you just asked me this. So, I met my now husband at university, and so we've known each other since we were teenagers.
Oh.
And I've always been massively purpose-driven, and I work, and I love working.
Yeah.
I'm a massive workworkaholic.
Yeah.
I can't help it. And I don't even think of it as work. It's just what I do in my day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had worked, and for lots of different reasons, we decided to not even think about trying to have babies until quite late. And it turned out that I had massive fertility challenges. And so it took 9 rounds of IVF to have my babies. So it took me 10 years, whilst I was a chief executive of doing IVF, to have my 2 kids. And I would talk about this really openly because I think it's really important for women to understand that you can do fertility treatment and be a chief executive and it can all work. But it is one of the things, if I look back, if I'd have known how blooming long it was going to take me to have my kids, I would have, that's what I would have done differently. I'd have started earlier. Wow. Because I just remember having all of my 30s thinking is this actually going to work out? And it was an amazing test of resilience, and I learnt a lot about myself and my husband in the whole process. But I often say this to people, don't assume that you can just choose when you're going to have your kids.
It's very true.
So even though that's a random one, that
well, no, I'm really happy that you've actually shared that. People close to me have gone through similar experiences, and it is so tough.
It is.
Oh my goodness. But
and I always say to people, if you feel able to, I get it, it's an incredibly personal thing.
Yeah.
So many women have come and talked to me about fertility challenges or whatever, because I'm as a chief exec in lots of different organisations, I've always been really open about it.
Yeah.
And I think vulnerability is such a good thing to share.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But also it makes people realise you can be a female boss and
you just be human.
Be a human.
And have those same challenges that you don't need to hide.
Yeah, and it shouldn't stop your career path. This is a thing I always want to say to women where they're oh, I'm thinking about having a baby, maybe I won't go for that job. And I'm if I'd have taken that approach, I would have not got 3 of my chief exec jobs, because I wouldn't have gone for them because I was trying to have a baby. Don't pause, crack on.
It's probably one of the most empowering answers I've had to this question. I that's kind of throwing me off.
Sorry.
I'm so happy that you shared this. And actually, there was another question that I was going to ask, but then I cut it out because I was we might not have time. But because you mentioned it now, how, and I'm sure you get this a lot being a chief exec, how do you manage to be chief exec? And then I realised you just said you had a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old.
I've got a 5-year-old.
I have a 1.5-year-old and I'm barely functioning.
You clearly are functioning.
No,
well done.
I've got a brilliant support system.
Yeah, same.
But I mean, how, top advice on how do you juggle that being a chief exec with kids and everything that comes with kids?
I mean, everybody...
the mother or primary caregiver mental load. How do you manage that?
So the first thing is that I am genuinely in a partnership with my husband when it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
So he is absolutely brilliant as a co-parent. So that is number one. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But also I made a decision after always running UK-wide organisations I very intentionally looked for a London-based organisation so Alfie was like 6 months old. I was just when COVID hit, and so I had not really been around with my daughter for the first couple of years. I'd gone straight back, like I was off for 6 months, and then I went straight back to running a UK-wide organisation. And so I wasn't home for bed and bath that much with her.
Yeah.
And then with Alfie, I was all the time because of COVID. I was suddenly at home a lot more. And Dave said to me, my husband said to me, like, maybe look for like a London-based chief exec job, just because it's actually been really nice having you around.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love about Felix is, the furthest I have to go is Enfield.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to jobs where I'm in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. I'm always on a train or a plane or whatever.
Yeah.
And I only know how to do work one way, which is like by being in it.
Yeah, yeah. Of course,
and so like at the moment, the way we make it work is that I'm doing a London-based job, which means I can do I see them. I absolutely prioritise that, and I do very, very visible parenting at work. I make sure, again, as part of like the role modelling and empowering people, I'm doing drop-off this morning, so I can't have a meeting before 9:15 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm just really strict on making it work.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, it doesn't work all the time. I always think you don't want people to think, oh, it's okay, it's all perfect. No. It's really hard work.
I watched an interview with that former CEO of PepsiCo in Hungary, and she said a really good point. She was like, you can never find a balance. Like, it doesn't exist. She's like, it's more of a juggle, right? How are you juggling things? One day it might be more home life versus professional. One day it might be the opposite way. And I was like, that's such a great way to understand that, because you see all of this. I think social media has made it really difficult as well. You see like people just be like, I'm here with my kids and I'm here doing my career, and I'm like, how does this work? Because I don't know how do I get to that.
No, it's a juggle. And also, as soon as one thing goes wrong, like if one kid is sick or whatever, it doesn't work.
No.
Like Dave and I always laugh about this. It's like, oh God, who's going to be off with the sick child? Or whatever. Like that's the thing, right? You just have to recognise when everything is just about right, it's fine. You add one extra thing in.
100%. Yeah.
Like we looked after. This is a really silly example, but we looked after my mother-in-law's dog for her. And I realised that layering a dog on top of the rest of my life was too much. I was like, this is too much for me, Dave. Let's never get a dog.
It's like you're kind of walking on like a tightrope almost, and a little gust of wind kind of comes and you're like just gone. Like.
I was like, the equilibrium is broken. So I always think also just be really honest. Like I also spend a lot of my life sprinting, like between things.
No, I saw that today. And that's why I'm like looking at the clock, like you've got to go. But thank you so much, Charlotte. This actually has been... It's been such a brilliant conversation. I feel so inspired, and I'm actually coming to volunteer in a month with some of the team, so I'm really excited, and I will look into more stuff that I can probably share online as well. So thank you so much. It's been
not
nice.
At all. And thank you for having me.
No, it's fine.
I've really enjoyed it.
Amazing. Thanks so much.